unity with the L-O-V-E. Love is the solution, so set your love free with the L-O-V-E. Further evolution and blessed unity.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Self-Love Show. I'm your co-host, Dawn Light, and my beautiful co-host, Trish Wright, is here with us also. We have an amazing guest today, my beautiful sister, Omega. I'm going to read a little blurb, an introduction for her beautiful work, and excited to dive into this delicious conversation about menstruating bodies. And it's really yummy and juicy and great value today. So this one's for the humans with menstruating bodies and for those wanting to support their friends in their journey of menstruation. Learn how to master your hormones, harness your feminine fitness, and reduce PMS. Who doesn't want that, right? This show will help you understand how your hormones change from week to week so that you can take advantage of your cyclical nature. We will be talking about how to intuitively track the cycle, work out for the different phases, and eat according to your cycle. We will also be talking about the different types of PMS and how to start addressing them in a holistic and natural way. Omega is an exercise scientist, menstrual cycle educator, and founder of the Fitness Flow method. She's a former bikini competitor who took third at nationals in 2009 and shortly thereafter was diagnosed with hypothyroid syndrome. Omega is no stranger to health issues, and she has conquered PCOS, adrenal fatigue, hypothyroid, and anemia. In her healing journey, she even gained 30 pounds in 3 months, and it was through the lens of the menstrual cycle that she was able to take her healing one step further. She now teaches other menstruating people how to master their hormone, reduce PMS, and get fit using the Fitness Flow method. Isn't that incredible? Welcome, Omega.
Thank you so much for having me, Dawn and Trish.
Woo! Yes.
To be here with you.
Love
the
to
journey.
start us
Go ahead.
with some conversations. Okay, all right. I get so excited out the gate that I'm like, oh, I have to relax. I'd love to talk a little bit about what all hormones are, what they impact in our bodies, both men and women. Because I think that sometimes when we get into these conversations, we're like, oh, we just think about, like estrogen and testosterone, but we don't actually understand maybe what creates, like what are the organs that really produce. Oh, biology wasn't my strong suit. I'm just being honest. and how what that looks like, not only physiologically, but in your brain.
Totally. I love this question because it's a great question because hormones are produced by our muscles. Hormones are produced by our, I know, right? By our gonads. So men, they're male-bodied people, balls, female-bodied people, ovaries. And hormones are produced in our brain too, in our pituitary gland. And there's this beautiful axis called the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. And
can you that's one more time?
Yeah. Hypothalamic in the brain, pituitary also in the brain, adrenal near the booty, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Yeah, hormones are produced all over the place, really. And we have more than, I guess, 3,000 hormones produced every day. So I know it's wild, right? And so we are a product of our hormones, of what our hormones are doing. So hormones are produced in a lot of places, and we can produce more testosterone the more we work out, right? The more we do strength training, the more we can produce testosterone. Fat also is an estrogen producer too. So the more fat a person has on their body, the more estrogen they will have too. Estrogen is stored, estrogenated fat can be stored in our belly and our hips and our thighs. And when female body people have a baby, that fat is then taken, and then estrogen is metabolized a little bit to for milk production too. So yeah, our bodies are
So
amazing.
They
Can I
really
just-
are.
So you're saying that my beloved fat on my thighs and my belly and all of that in here and here are
Yeah,
all supposed to be there, and they're healthy for
yeah,
people who run estrogen and who menstruate and who have, vaginas.
yeah, totally. Is that sign language for vaginas?
No, that's just me like trying to like that was my brain thinking about like so the finger touchy thing, like that's my brain trying to figure out how to be polite in public. Like, oh
Totally.
God, can I actually say this word? Yes. Thanks for calling that because I think that so we live in a society that supports and it is really specifically okay, I'll just say what I want to say. I know that we live in a society that really projects youth and prepubescent bodies as the type of body that we're all striving for. And I also think that's a terribly harmful narrative to project out. So these hairless, thin, super thin bodies, that's all prepubescence. I get really upset about this particular body style because I'm like, hey, why are we attracted to that? That's called pedophilia. Anyway, I'm just really going for it today. Sorry, Don.
Great.
And so that what that does is that it makes people who have estrogen and the stuff that comes with it really shamed of their bodies or work really extra hard for certain things that are really unnatural to what it is to be in a estrogen running badge having body and it works on the other side too. I mean, I'm not saying that like this is only an experience that women are having or people who are look and feel in like my body, that men are also forced into a social construct, a gender social construct in a beauty standard that's not helpful. So the knowing that fat stores estrogen and that's what our bodies are doing for our benefit makes me go
Yeah. Our bodies are powerfully and wonderfully made, and it's an honor to live in a body that has a little extra fat. If we're a female body person, like that's what our body is supposed to have in order to produce life.
If you all just came into that conversation, go back about 3 seconds, maybe 15, and listen to that piece again. Your body's normal and natural, and it's beautiful, and it's doing the right
It's good to have the juicy parts on your body. The extra little bit of juice is good. Like that's vitality. It means you're vital, right? Because I mean, I see hormones as in my own journey of understanding my hormones, and I've been going to seeing a hormone doctor over the last year because I'm radically at a different. I've had a baby. I'm in my mid 40s, right? I'm 46, and so it's a very different stage of the game now for me, right? I've already but it's happening, right? So I had to go see a hormone doctor just because of I think the stress that had taken place in my life of going through graduate school and my dad dying and all the things that took place. My hormone levels just tanked, and I was like, what the F is going on with my body? And I'm just so thankful because I've been doing a lot of research and understanding, and I was like, wow. So I decided to do bioidentical hormones, and it's been amazing. And I'm back to weight training consistently. And I got my period again or my moon cycle. And it's vitality, vitality, literally, no matter what age you are. And the beauty is you can do them at any age, to really support you.
Yeah, totally. Bioidentical hormones are something that's I feel like it's poo-pooed upon, but I feel like it's one of those things that can extend our longevity and quality of life, as any gender, really. I was on bioidentical hormones when I had thyroid issues, and it saved my life, saved my energy levels.
Exactly. Like I had brain fog, all the symptoms, not being able to sleep. And I was like, fuck this. Like, I don't feel good. Like, it's not even about what I look like, because I mean, yes, my body had gained weight and stuff, but I was like, man, it's about feeling well and like being able to like thrive and just get up in your day and feel good about, yourself and what you're doing. Like that was when I started having those symptoms, I was like, no way, I'm handling this. I don't know how people ignore this and that blew my mind.
Yeah.
Dawn, I don't know if you want to do this, but I'm curious if you wanted to share what the symptoms were, what shifted for you. So for the people who are watching, especially the millennials that are starting to move into this, because I think that this is a really powerful conversation to have. Nobody talks about this.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about things that change.
Yeah, well, for me, like I always had a consistent moon cycle, like my whole everything. Like I was always like clockwork. You could count on it. Like my body was consistent, and I have more of a pitta style body type, like muscular and fit. Like I've always been a dancer and a performer, and I always moved a lot. So my body was clockwork for me. I could count on it, and it's just interesting, like after having a baby and all the things, like my body found its way back to that same consistency, which was amazing. And I had a great healthy pregnancy, even at 35, 36 when I got pregnant, like amazing, like carried in full term, big baby, like the whole 9 yards, had him at home, all the things, right? Proud of myself for that. And, the symptoms that really started to arrive, I didn't start to feel any kind of crazy, which I found out from my doctor that it was adrenal fatigue that led me into early perimenopause. Adrenal fatigue. So if you're check your adrenals before, don't let it happen to you what happened to me, because I just was the type that I'm a go, keep it busy. I was very accomplishing a lot of tasks and doing a lot in my life, and that gave me adrenal fatigue, not knowing, right? And even though I'm a healthy eater, I have a clean diet, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, like all the things, right? Drink a lot of water, I still got adrenal fatigue. And so, that really affects your thyroid, right? And that affects your whole immune system and everything. So the symptoms were not being able to sleep at night sweats, brain fog, which was really affecting me because here I am in the middle of creating a program, and I'm like, I need to feel good. This is crazy, and it was just like, it was creating all this anxiousness and not feeling good. And I was like, wow, I really need to do something about this. I couldn't weight train. I had no energy whatsoever. And then when I got my blood test done, it's like I was supposed to be in the 60s for my testosterone, and I was like 9.
Oh my God. It's so nice when we get a diagnosis that it's like, obviously diagnoses are like hard to swallow, right? But it's also comes with lots of relief too. Like,
It was so relieving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a very powerful share to tell everyone what your body is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it's important because it's, at this stage of the game, it's not spoken about, right? Because it's like we're kind of shamed to be this age and have, it's like this mysterious thing. Like it wasn't shared among my friends groups and all the things. It was like all of a sudden it was like happening to me. I'm like, I'm like, oh wow, I need to do some. But thankfully, I have like 2 Suzanne Summers books that I read, and it's all about bioidentical hormones. And I was like, she rocks. Like, and it gave me a clear understanding that don't go for synthetic. Bioidentical are a match, identical to what your body produces. Mm-hmm. So it actually helps you build back up what you've lost over time.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Storing.
Yeah. So I really love what you do, Omega. Thank you for, just this deep conversation, because it sounds like you've also bounced back from thyroid and adrenal and all the things,
Very
right?
Similar story to yours. And this was when, like, you're in your 40s. This was when I was in my 20s.
Wow.
Early 20s. Yeah. I mean, like you being in school, I was in school. I luckily had my parents. I'm sorry to hear that your father passed away. Like those are all stressors on the body. Again, it goes back to the hypothalamic, pituitary, adrenal axis. It fucking stresses us out to have all of those things piled on. And in my own experience, I was also training every single day for competitions. I was going to school. I had my personal training clients.
Training every day too.
Yeah, and we just get burnt out because we are taught that there's this standard, like you're talking about, Trish. There's this like hairless cat sort of skinny standard that we need to attain, but that is programming that is no longer
It's
antiquated. No thanks.
literally based on prepubescent white teen bodies from England. Like this thing that is created, it's for procreation based way back when.
Yeah.
It doesn't work anymore.
Doesn't work anymore.
Mhm.
And our bodies are telling us so.
Society's telling us so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I do got a question. I just had my 35th birthday last week.
35, 33.
5.
Oh, congratulations. Happy birthday.
Yay.
But guess what's happening?
What?
I'm getting I call them glass hairs. Other people call them witch hairs. Some people call them phone hairs. Whatever you call them, and I'm curious what you guys call them. But what's happening there? Oh, and I also been having like my zits are changing. I
Oh.
still get them great, and they're significantly deeper. Like they're not just the ones that you can be like, and they go woo, and they're really exciting to do that, and it doesn't work anymore. They're really deep and obviously cystic sort of. So I'm like, oh, I'm having hormonal changes. Like I know that it's happening. And guess what happened just recently that I've been really touching into. I was like, oh no, I think this is what it feels like to have your clock start ticking.
Oh no.
Oh no! I mean, for me, yes. I'm like, oh shoot. I'm like,
What
oh
yeah. Clock ticks for sure. You go through cycles of like really like, oh, anxious and thinking about it all the time, dreaming about it, and then it bounces back to where you're relaxed about it.
I'm not sure I want children, but I'm like, whoa, body, you and me, we gotta have a conversation. Whoa.
It tries to run the show sometimes in that way.
No, I was like, stop it. I know you're more powerful than I am, but slow your roll. At least like
Right.
Anyway, I just wanted to share those things. So what do you call these things for one? And is that, I have a theory that it's testosterone. I don't know anything about it, but I think it's extra testosterone running.
Yeah, so it's it can be a number of things. If we have a lot, like I have a lot remnants from, I'm like trying to show you, but I don't think my camera's that good. I have a lot down here, and that's remnants of PCOS. So there are different types of PCOS that a person can have. For those of us who don't know what PCOS is, it's polycystic ovarian syndrome, and we can have like insulin dominant polycystic ovarian syndrome where we gain more weight. We can have hirsutism where we grow hair. I don't know if I'm saying that right because I haven't heard anybody pronounce it. I've just read it. So hirsutism. So that's one option, but likely not if it's only just one hair. Like your theory about testosterone, you're thinking it's not just one hair, it's multiple hairs.
Well, there was one. Oh, you saw my face. Well, it was one a long time ago, and now there's 3.
No, there's 3. So like, girl, I got like my pubic hair used to run down to my knees and out of my chin. So like 3 hairs, man. Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, so
Laser hair removal is amazing.
I did it.
Me too.
I did it. It's great.
So let me tell you about the story about how I found out. I used to drive a lot, long distances with these people, and for years I would drive with them. And one day, the guy that I worked for, he was my boss, And he looked over and he's like, Trish, I've been really wanting to tell you something for a long time, that sometimes when the sun hits a very specific spot, the little hair on your chin will glisten. And I was mortified. I didn't even know that I had a chin hair. I was like, I found it. It was like almost an inch long.
Oh my God.
It was a long time. He'd sat with me for years and never said anything to me about it. I didn't even know. It's not like I'm looking at my chin. Right? It was like, it's right here.
Yeah, they get underneath there, the undercarriage of this part
And
of
now
it.
I'm like, oh God, I have now 3 because I'm thinking about people looking at my chin hairs and not telling me what kind of friend was he.
But
Tell
I
me
think
about
it's like that for men, they come like the long one out of their eyebrow, right? It's like the long white one that comes out of someone's eyebrow.
Which is the warlock hairs.
Yeah. I call them
Out of the
owl
ears.
eyebrows.
Yeah, good name.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, super, like that can be like testosterone. I don't know who this is calling me, sorry y'all. But that can be that can be testosterone raising a little bit. So that's one option. And then the cysts that are happening on your cheeks, that can be cysts here, jawline mostly, and here.
So like mostly right in here, and then
Uh-huh.
a lot right in here.
Oh.
So it's kind of like
I mean,
maybe
this is hormones.
Yeah, that's extra. That's a little bit more testosterone too. And there can be like a progesterone estrogen ratio happening if it's just on the jawline, but it sounds like it's more like testosterone dominant. We're oily here, we're oily here. I don't know about this one, but oily here too, So it's just sebaceous gland activity and testosterone being like, let's produce pimples. Let's go.
thanks, body.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about so it kind of goes back to a question that I was having earlier. So I have a lot of people in my life who are trans and who are transitioning and taking different hormones. And what I notice, what I've heard in conversations is that it literally, not only does it change the body, like physically it changes the body and how they move in the world, but how they think and how they feel. And we all know the sort of like kind of the trope or the like an annoyance of like, oh, she's menstruating, so she's probably emotional, like that whole thing. But I'd love to hear a little bit more about how hormones or different hormones impact emotions and thought processes. Because I think that this right here is a really sweet way to find compassion and empathy and to really be more allowing of our human body doing the human body thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah. So there are a couple different types of testosterone and a couple different types of estrogen. And the estrogen that we produce mostly is estradiol and estriol. As menstruating people, and I am not familiar with like the hormones that people get placed on there in transition. I just don't know what they're called or if they're bioidentical or anything like that. But the effect of estrogen on the brain is a lot of mental acuity. A couple people say that like, okay, the male brain is like, it's got the left side or the right side and it's got the left side. And some people say, and I don't know how true this is, that if you're a female bodied person, then our brains are wired in a more circular pattern. And right. And so we know that when we reach a certain point in our menstrual cycle, that progesterone actually subdues the brain. So progesterone has a subduing effect. It's one of those cyclical hormones that we have too. That's why I notice for myself, and I do a lot of education on this, that we aren't as mentally acute in our premenstrual phase because progesterone is coming online. And when progesterone drops and estrogen drops and testosterone drops, there's no chance that we can like lead a board meeting, have a presentation, like do all these things that require lots of mental acuity. I right now am in my premenstrual phase, but I'm early premenstrual phase. So I knew that I could do this interview because I'm like a day or two before everything starts to drop right now. So what happens after our period, our hormones are our lowest. And then after that, when testosterone and estrogen start to rise, testosterone has this effect on the body. It helps us build muscle. Estrogen helps us build muscle too. Estrogen helps us recover muscle, and testosterone helps us synthesize muscle. It helps stitch the muscle together.
Amazing.
And
Amazing.
we're amazing. We're amazing. And so like with testosterone can also aid in mental acuity. It can also make us more magnetic too. Estrogen helps clear the skin also. So if we're having acne and stuff like that, that can point to like, maybe estrogen needs some support, you know? And let's see, what else? Like estrogen also can help us find words easier. Like if we're in I know we're talking about people in transition, but like to put it in a box that my mind can talk about and can think about, like if we're in our ovulatory phase and have that peak of testosterone and estrogen, we actually have more magnetic power, right? Testosterone gives us this bravado, right? And estrogen does that as well, but in this wonderful balance of the feminine and masculine. So, yeah.
I was having a conversation with just like a sweet last night about their hormones. They're trans women, and they've got consistent progesterone at night and estrogen in the morning. And I was like, I don't really understand what that means at all. Because again, I have like I'm all over the board. I'm like, oh, here we go. Woo!
Yeah.
You know, maybe it's not exactly like that, but close. So I was like, oh, what does it mean to have consistent progesterone in the evening? And
that's cool.
I think that's correct. I think
that would make sense. Yeah, because progesterone will also help us sleep. I noticed like I'm a very sensitive sleeper. In my early premenstrual phase, I'll always sleep a little bit better. That makes sense to me that they would have more progesterone at night, estrogen in the morning, because estrogen helps us feel alive, sexy, good, all those things.
Yeah, my doctor has me take progesterone pills at night, and then I apply a progesterone cream in the morning. And then in the afternoon, like later in the day, I do it again. And then testosterone also in the morning, which is also a cream. And so I just put it on my arm.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I was on progesterone cream for a while. Do you do the wild yam? Is it wild yam?
I tried that stuff before, but I just follow the regime she had me on because like I just really wanted to make sure that I handle everything. Yeah, but yeah. I think when I was experimenting before I found her, I tried all kinds of things, do you like the wild yam?
I think it's great. And then, if you're doing like a series of bioidentical things, like I was just curious if that's something that your doctor used, but I think, yes, wild yam is great if you are like, I'd say if you're a little bit younger too. And if you're like, oh, like I need a progesterone boost because I'm having cervical mucus in my premenstrual phase. I'm a little bit moody, a little anxiety. I think it's pretty good. But, in your case, like follow the recipe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Important.
So for everyone watching, I hope that you're seeing how much your hormones are really affecting your energy and your emotions and the people like and how that really impacts. Like, I mean, and as you can kind of hear is that there's male bodies and female bodies also have rhythms in your day and in your life, and what that can really impact. So if you're having that low energy, and if you're having some symptoms that might not make sense to you, like, go talk to someone like Omega or your doctor and get your hormones checked, because it's especially if you're aging, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of aging, I have so many questions about um about oh gosh, I lost the word for it. When you shift from seductress into crone.
Perimenopause.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Eugene, we're trying to use the language around menstruation and estrogen and testosterone as much as we can, and it's also really challenging to kind of have these conversations from the place where I'm at in my languaging and my understanding about how to do that. So binary, it's if you have other languaging around that you could type in, that would be excellent. But we're doing our best. um, so yeah, menopause. I'd love to share a little story first. One of my most favorite client sessions that I've ever had in my whole life has landed for me, and I've come back to it so many times. And I'm a certified sex coach. So often people come to me to talk about their sex life, and men come to me to talk to me about their sex life and how they can inspire their women to have sex with them. And I'm like, well, it's not really like that. And we have been, yes, Eugene, we have been using those terms as much as we can. So he comes to me. He's older. He's in the like maybe 50-ish. And he's like, my wife doesn't want to be intimate with me. And I was like, oh, tell me more about it. I'm starting to get curious about like what their intimacy does look like and how he approaches it. That's what my question is. Like, how do you approach it? And he's like, a very masculine like approach. And I was like, oh, how old is your wife? And she was a little bit older than he was. I was like, oh, do you approach intimacy only through sexuality? And he's like, well, yes. And I was like, oh, I see here. And so what we slowed down to is that what he really wanted was physical connection. It wasn't sex anymore, because his body didn't work the way that he wanted it to either. And that he was on medications that like there was a lot of things moving on in his, he had low T, he didn't get erections as much. Like, there was a lot of things, but what he craved was the romance and intimacy, the cuddling, the touch. And I was like, oh, are you approaching your wife in that way? Or is she assuming that you want to have penetrative sex? And he was like, oh my gosh, wow. And then we went a level deeper. And this is where we both cried for an hour. This was the healing part about it. It occurred to me at that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, this woman is moving into menopause. And I only briefly knew a bit about it because my parents had my mom had shared with me, my grandmother had shared some stories, but I hadn't spent a lot of time researching it. And it wasn't a heavy topic in my sex coaching practice, but I was like, oh, I know that the desire like lessens because estrogen and testosterone lessen as well. And I shared with him some of the things that my grandmother and my mother had shared and the things that I had read. And he looked at me and he was like, oh. And he started crying. And I started crying. And we mourned her sexuality and their sexuality and his, vitality. Like, we mourned the menopause. And it was one of the most beautiful sessions of my life. I was like, wow. And I was traveling back to the Salt Lake City then. That's where I met him. And I went back 6 months later, and he he created a session. He was like, I want to see you again. And he only wanted to tell me, like, this is the whole session. Thank you for that session with me. It changed our sex life and our romance, and we are having the most amazing time in our life. Like, we are so intimate and romantic, and it's no longer about this thing that's not supporting either of us. Like, we are so deeply connected now. Thank you. And I was like, wow. And then he was like, oh, you want to work? Like, no, I just wanted to say that bye. Like,
Wow.
this is the most amazing time. So let's talk a little bit about, I know that was a long story. Thank you for bearing with me.
Beautiful story.
Let's talk a little bit about supporting people who are going through menopause, or and what that looks like, and what how that impacts desire. Like, just overview it for us.
Yeah. So the three important hormones, again, are estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone that play this role, right? So first person to leave the party is estrogen. Estrogen leaves, and we start noticing that our body is changing, right? The perimenopause journey is all of those decreasing just a little bit. The volume is being turned down just a little bit, right? So estrogen leaves the party first, and that's when female-bodied people can experience vaginal dryness. And that is no fun to have sex with, right? And we have all of these lubes that are marketed to us as, as we start to age, and in our menstrual years too, to address this dryness. But when we talk about dryness, we have to talk about turn on too. So if we don't have estrogen, it's harder to be turned on, right? If there's no estrogen and testosterone, again, the volume's being turned down on testosterone. So that gets hard. Then we have progesterone. So our hormone that used to give us this nice, like, subdued feeling, nice relaxed feeling, is no longer
Present.
It's no longer present. Yeah. It is waving goodbye to us forever. And that's when bioidenticals become extremely supportive. And then testosterone actually hangs around. That's the one that hangs around. And so everybody has this kind of 24-hour cycle with testosterone. Testosterone will peak twice in the day, whether you're female-bodied or male-bodied. Testosterone does peak in the day. And then for people who are transitioning, they have a totally different regime, doctor's orders, whatever. So testosterone stays around, but if it's just testosterone and not estrogen or progesterone, we don't really feel that great. And that's where, like, Dawn's story of taking bioidenticals is, like, it's so important. And I think all of us should consider that. And when we talk about food and exercise, when it comes to our perimenopausal journey, that looks different too. Like, it does. Can you share, Dawn, what it looks like for you from a first person perspective?
I was really like, to lose the baby weight, I went into this place of, I did a lot of cardio. So I started doing cardio, and that really got me into the cycle of weight training. And I was like notorious for like long, I hike the treadmill, and I loved it because I always put like positive things in my ears, and I just paired the two as leveling up my mind and my body at the same time. And I got really fit, because then I started transitioning from doing that. I would do that, and then I started weight training on top of it. And then I was really physical job where I was moving all the time and like moving around and very busy. And so I was super fit. I lost all the baby weight and like got in the best shape of my life in my 40s and was like really, really fit. But it was coupled with the, traveling to 3 cities all consistently, and like going to LA for, school, and just the hecticness of living and what I was going through, that my adrenal fatigue, right? So, but now that the and I don't even know if I guess I am, but my period's back. So I have no idea, I have no idea. the surrender. I had like mourned it. I had mourned I literally grieved. I grieved that my cycle was gone. I literally was in surrendered, like, great, I guess it's gone. Like, and then it came back and I was like, oh, I made a tincture out of it so I could use it for like ritual and stuff. I was like, yeah, keeping this one, it's sacred. Like, yeah. Anyway, for those that do that, like, I just, I've made it with vodka, so it's like stable and not gross, and like, and that way if I ever want to, put it on anything special or, use it in that way. Anyway, so I found myself that I could not do long steady state cardio anymore. And it's funny, I have this lots of decks of cards, and I kept getting this card that said, get off the treadmill. And it literally was like speaking to me.
Wow.
I know. And so but weight training, I was a body pumper. I went to body pump all the time, loved it, was super fit. And then also, using the machines at the gym. But the issue for me is I could not muster. It was the wildest thing to feel like, what happened to my exercise routine once the pandemic hit and I was at home? But I have tons of workout equipment here too, but I could not find my consistent rhythm anymore. It was just the weirdest thing to wake up and feel like I really want to do this, but I don't have it in me. It was the strangest, like, I've never experienced that in my life because I've always been a very like stamina, physically active, physically fit, yoga, all kinds of things, right? And now I'm back, like I'm weight training, and I found a great, rhythm that I'm finding, and so it's good. I'm like, I'm giving myself lots of spaciousness, and I'm not from that pushing place that I was. I'm just enjoying getting back to feeling good and like the rhythm of what that is now.
Beautiful.
So I'm approaching it so differently. It's a way more softer approach, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I want to just reiterate what you said in regards to, I'm getting a little feedback here, in regards to your experience with the treadmill. Like, most people in the perimenopause, menopause journey, they do need to get off of the treadmill. That was divine guidance, because our body is literally metabolizing things completely different in this phase of life. And we're not using fat the same way that we did. And fat gives us that energy for long duration cardio. And so strength training, like I said, testosterone's the last friend to leave the party. So strength training is really where it's at for people in the perimenopause and menopause journey, for sure. So I'm so happy for you. That's your mic is on. Or your mic is off. Sorry.
I was just playing with the sound in case we had the echo that we were creating.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it was a wild like year of, pandemic and like, what is going on with my body? But I'm so stoked to finally, like, it's been 6 months in and I'm feeling much better. So I'm stoked to know that you help people in this way. I mean, in your practice, understand their menstrual cycle and understand the fitness that can go on and the eating and everything, like, because you really want to master that before you get to this phase, right?
100%.
Yeah. That way you lean into that phase with like as much stamina and great body, health that can go on for a woman. So if you're before the perimenopause phase, like, really lean into loving up your menstrual cycle and understanding your body the best. That's my suggestion to that age group, so that you can really step into this with as much grace, right? Because take it from me, check your hormones and, check out your adrenals, because it sucks to go into it with adrenal fatigue. It took me there faster.
Yeah.
I just didn't know, because I felt okay. It was like all of a sudden it was like a drop off.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Adrenal fatigue will do that.
Yeah.
It's like cortisol, and then nothing.
Yeah.
So I know that I'm very conscious of time and your time, y'all's time. And I'm wondering if, oh gosh, hold on. I'm wondering if there's anything that you might want to share with our audience or with the people who are listening um, through the podcast or anything like that. I'm curious if there's anything that you might be able to take us through. Yeah, like something you might have prepared.
Yeah, totally. So I remember I was reminded when Dawn was giving the introduction that we were going to talk about the different phases of the cycle. And I know that not everybody is super familiar with that. So that's something that I just want to go over really quick and really thoroughly. So the first phase of the cycle is our bleed phase. A lot of people see that as the last phase, but that's really the first phase of our cycle. So we have our bleed phase, and the bleed lasts anywhere from 5 to 7 days for most people. It can last 3 for some people too. And it's important to know that there's like no right way or no right. There's no right when it comes to your menstrual cycle. There's just as you are. So we have our bleed phase, and then the second phase is our follicular phase, and that's when our follicles start to mature, and one follicle is chosen to be a viable egg. And in that phase of our cycle, because remember, our ovaries are one of the things that produce hormones too. Our ovaries then communicate with our brain and say, hey, produce more estrogen and testosterone. That's the magic of our ovaries, because our ovaries are doing that for us. And then from there, and that can last like anywhere from 3 to 6 days. And then we have our ovulatory phase. And though it's called our phase, literally ovulation lasts for at most like 24 hours. And ovulation is literally a moment in time where that egg is dropped. And in our ovulatory phase, estrogen and testosterone are at their peak. And we were talking earlier in this conversation that estrogen and testosterone are the things that give us energy, right? And so we have this like magnetic ability in our ovulatory phase. Our energy is the highest it will ever be at any phase of the cycle. And maybe our skin is glowing. We're obviously fertile in this phase. And take it from me, you can be fertile even in your bleed phase, depending on how long your menstrual cycle is and how viable a person's sperm is. So, little backstory, I did get pregnant when I was in my bleed phase, and the sperms was alive for 10 days and implanted, and then in my ovulatory phase. So just know that we can still kind of get pregnant in our late bleed phase. That doesn't mean we can get pregnant at any time in the month, because after our ovulatory phase, which this can last like 3 to 4 days, maybe 6 days if you have a longer cycle. But remember, ovulation is just a moment in time, a 24-hour period, maybe, if that varies for everybody. And then we have our luteal phase, or our premenstrual phase. And this should be no shorter than 11 days, sometimes 14 days for lots of people, and it could be longer too. And in this phase called the luteal phase, a lot of magic happens. So imagine an egg, like a regular chicken egg, and the eggshell. The eggshell, when the eggshell breaks in our body, just imagine this, that is what produces progesterone. Again, it's that subduing hormone, that hormone that really chills us out a little bit. However, there's lots of different PMS symptoms that can happen at this time because of hormonal imbalances like acne, anxiety, bloating, constipation, breast tenderness, sleeplessness, cramps. Did I say diarrhea yet? Diarrhea can happen, headaches. I'm sure I'm missing something, but that's all I can remember right now. Like there's any number of things that can happen, and that's because of our of an imbalance in our hormones. So if you're not experiencing like this subduing effect on the brain and this chillax vibe, it means that you have an opportunity to heal your body in certain ways. And just because you have PMS doesn't mean that anything is wrong with you either. So there's that. And then so we have our premenstrual phase, which again is 11 to 14 days. So around day, like if you have a 28-day cycle, around day 25, 24-ish, all your hormones are going to decrease a little bit. In your premenstrual phase, testosterone and estrogen are already going down. And then as progesterone drops, estrogen will do another little peak, and that peak in estrogen actually signals your body to bleed again. So, and that's the full cycle. And I don't see Dawn or Trish here anymore. So if you're here, please come back. There you are.
Just giving you an opportunity to really share your genius. Yeah, that's
Cool. I was like, I don't see them anymore. I don't know if they left for good.
No, we're here.
Yes. Such
there's
good
anything-
information.
And for all of you people who don't menstruate, I hope that was also really good information for you to get more clarity about what estrogen running bodies look like.
And for all of the people that, sorry to interrupt you, Trish, this is a common question that I get from men or people in transition of how can I like tap into the magic of the cycle? And I always say, look at the moon. We're 60+% water, and the moon moves us. We just had this beautiful full moon in Aries, a great time to tap into our desires. And when we look at the moon, if we're a cyclical person or a non-cyclical person, we have an opportunity to tap into this larger consciousness and really live our life by this. So like this full moon energy is akin to that ovulatory phase of like go out and get them. Right now the moon is waning, so that's akin to our luteal or premenstrual phase. The new moon is like our bleed phase or our going within phase. And then as the moon starts to build again, that's the follicular phase. That's the time to like really put the intentions out there and start the work.
Mhm.
Perfect. I'd love to sort of hear a little bit about supportiveness of our own menstruating bodies. So, like for example, I went vegan once for a long time, and I started losing taste buds, and I ended up seeing a Ayurvedic practitioner because the Western medicine thought that I was having like a flesh-eating mouth disease, and I started taking antibiotics. It was crazy. Anyway, it wasn't helping, and what it was is a B12 deficiency. Random side story, not actually tied to this theme, but what she said to me was really powerful. She said, "You need to not work on the first day of your moon cycle. When you're bleeding,
work on the fourth day of your moon cycle
first. So
First
when you start bleeding, if you can structure around that to literally just really support your body, get the iron that you need, because like there's things that your personal body needs. And I know that I'm going to ask for a generalization, even though I'm not necessarily apt to do that often, but for people who are running estrogen and have vaginas and are menstruating, and what's the most supportive thing that we can take away from the show? So it's like, is it just tracking your emotions through the month, or what you're eating, or what you're craving? Like, if there's one thing that someone can really do that supports the rest of their life, whatever stage of life they're in, whether they're watching this, like someone sent it to them and they're 16 and they're like, oh my God, what do I do? Or maybe they're 10 and they just started their moon cycle and they're like, I don't know anything about it. Or their mom or their dad is like, whoa, I just learned so much about, like, what is the things that we can do? Maybe one for menstruators and one for
Non-menstruating bodies.
Like, oh no, there's other words that I'm sure that I shouldn't say.
Non-menstruating bodies.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So regardless of if you menstruate or if you don't menstruate, track how you feel. Our society has totally cut us off from our bodies, and it, like the industrial era, like work, work, work. You are supposed to produce, like you are supposed to be on all the time. That's not the case. We are, like, whether or not we menstruate, we all are cyclical beings. We go through different phases of life, right? And so I'd say, like, one thing that menstruating bodies can take out of this is track your cycle. It doesn't have to be fancy. You can do this on an app. You can do this. There's so many apps out there, right? Just Google period tracker and you'll find 300,000 apps. Okay. You can do this in your journal. I have what's called a cycles journal, which is set up with the moon phases too. So that makes it really fun. I have identified like which moon I bleed on. So that's really cool, to tap into like the universal consciousness in my own body, right? But I'd say that the main thing is to track your body and understand like what's happening when, how you feel at different phases, how your emotional body changing, and understand and eat a varied diet regardless of who you are. Get a varied diet. Make sure you're not eating the same thing every day. And move your body. Move your body differently. Move your body in ways that excites you, in ways that makes you feel good, not in your body, but good about your body, helps you feel confident, helps you feel more in love with your body. And that's what I'll say.
I like that. That's so helpful.
Last sort of side question, because I'm hyper inclusive and I think about society on a whole other platform. You did say to get a diverse diet, and I think about people who don't have finance or who have access. So I grew up in Montana, and I know a lot of people who are living in a food desert, and lots of things are very hard to come by. Living in California, where you can just like go to the on the side of the road and there's like fruits and vegetables and it's fresh and it's like awesome, and like that's not really available. So if you do live in a food desert, what are some like simple ways to just shift? Like what are a couple little ideas that people on very limited budgets can do to really like support their immune system and their endocrine system and their hormone?
Yeah,
I know these are really where my brain works.
Yeah. Change the way you prepare your food. So regardless of who you are or where you live, changing the way you prepare your food can be very nourishing for the microbiome. So steamed vegetables offer more fiber. Raw vegetables offer more phytonutrients. Cooked vegetables are easier to digest, whether they are roasted or steamed. Changing the way that we prepare our food can be very beneficial.
That's great advice.
And wouldn't you say it's also seasonal? Like you go with the seasons with that? Like right now we're kind of we're in the United States, we're literally leaning into like fall, winter season. So it's more stews, soups, like warmer, brothier kind of foods, right? And then as we get back around to spring, that's more like cold smoothies, and summer is like refreshing. Like I kind of that's how I manage my diet, is following the seasons and what's seasonal to eat during those times. Myself, like that's what I do.
Yeah, me too. I am not like a lot of people will say like, yeah, eat cooling foods in your ovulatory phase. Like, it's raining outside right now. I'm not going to make a smoothie. There's no chance.
Omega, thank you so much for your expertise and your time and your energy and your deep love and compassion for human bodies. And I so appreciate you answering all my wildly random questions.
Yeah, so fun. Thank you, Trish, and thank you, Dawn, so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for coming on and sharing about the menstrual cycle and hormones and the willingness to just really like pull back the curtain on all this mystery information around, it's really important to thrive as, a female menstruating body myself. Like, this information is pertinent to feeling good.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm going to
So
add
really-
all of these that you sent in so that people can get in touch with you and can also access your YouTube page and your channel and the things like that. So if they can, benefit from your wisdom and your love. And thank you so much.
And sign up for her program. She's got an amazing program. If you want to speak a little bit about it really quickly, we would love to hear that.
Totally. Yeah, I will.
Links in, that'd be great.
Yeah, totally. I think you have all the links there. And I have to go, so I'm going to make this really quick. This program is for people who want to tap into their menstrual cycle, reduce PMS, master their hormones early on, and also get fit and healthy in the process. And fit looks different for everybody. I will say that disclaimer right now. Fit looks different for everybody. This is a lifetime access program because our health journey is lifelong. And I have a fitness plan laid out for each phase of the cycle, as well as a nutrition plan that offers variety. It's not a diet plan. We don't do diets. We do a full spectrum nutrition guide. So there's that. We meet for weekly coaching calls. So that's where you get that one-on-one support with me, because one size does not fit all. You have a guide to help you through your PMS, because there's lots of different PMS symptoms that we can have, and it all points to some hormonal instability. So you have a guide for that. We have a Facebook group that we communicate with throughout the week, so that if you have a question, you can access me. That's where you get that one-on-one support too. I think the last thing I'll say that I didn't touch on is, no, that's it. I got it all. Yeah, lifetime access. That was the last thing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. You're such a radiant, joyful, beautiful goddess, supporting all the goddesses to be the goddess, right? Yes.
Lisa, goddess.
Yes. Appreciate you so much. What a wealth of wisdom, and what a blessing you've been on this amazing journey to cultivate this and step fully in. Like, so beautiful to see.
Thank you so much, Dawn. It
Yeah.
was such a pleasure.
Yay. Thank you. Have an
Bye,
amazing
Judy.
day. Good luck with your call.
Thank you.
If you want to jump off, we can wrap up the rest of the show. If you feel like you need to go for it.
Okay, I'm leaving, signing off.
Bye, honey. Yay. Thank you to our viewers for today and those that are tuning in. I just want to add, like, we really want to invite you to go check out our YouTube channel and subscribe, and share out the YouTube with all your loved ones, because there's tons we have like so many great videos on there, so many varied shows. Self-love looks radically big in all the ways, right? So lots of topics on self-love, and it's such a joy to share this out weekly. You want to add anything, Trish? Oh, working on the background. Okay. So
I am adding stuff, but I'm just like,
yes.
Go ahead, take it away.
Thank you everybody for tuning in and watching about Omega's delicious program today and all her beautiful information. And for those that are curious, I have a group called Reclaim Your Trust. And, please come join it. We are so excited to have you in it. It's for, female women that are interested in really flushing out the potential issues in their long-term relationship and really get back to the heart of trust, so that they can bring back like that, kindle that spark of, beautiful sacred love in their relationship, and reclaim the place inside where they felt like they've lost trust for themselves or life through whatever has occurred in your life. So this is a great place to do so. It's a free Facebook group, and we're growing and expanding weekly. So super excited to have you jump in.
And for the group of people, I know that we're working on you men. We're working on male body, testosterone running humans. We're working on you. But for the people who are single, gender doesn't matter or whatever, people who are single and wanting to move into more security, I'm going to drop in the single, sovereign, and secure group just so that you can build more community as well. And we have some things coming up soon that I'd really love to invite you to. So if you want to join there, please do that too. Again, thank you so much for showing up for you. And we'll catch you next week.
Yes. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Thank you again for tuning in.